Yo, what up? It's your boy Aries Spears right here. Shout out to RealToonTV, man. Glad to be a part of it. I'm gonna be back. Mikasa Sukasa.
Hey, Real Tune, it's some real money in the room.
Well, today on RealToonTV, we have none other than comedian legend. Can I call you a legend? Is it too early?
Listen,
I haven't heard too many people call you a legend.
If you want to give me that moniker, go ahead, man. I know I'm not that, but if you want to, okay.
Comedy legend, Aries Spears. You know, I've been following you since the Shaq All-Star Comedy Jam. You did the impression on Jay-Z, DMX, LL Cool J, so on and so forth. Shaq, you did the impression on Shaq in front of Shaq's face. Legendary, you know what I mean? And I actually had the opportunity to check you out last night, I believe, Friday, in person. Mm-hmm. And you were probably the funniest comic that I've seen come through in person. You know what I mean? That in-person comedy hit different. Yeah. From the set to the crowd interaction, it was overwhelming, bro. Like it was good. Like it was real life good. I'm sure you get it all the time.
I appreciate it, bro. Thank you.
But I was like, you know, it can.
I'll take it, man.
You heard me, man. So, you know, welcome to Houston and welcome to RealToonTV.
Yeah, well, thank you, brother. Appreciate the love, man. For
sure, man. So, but before we even get started, I just want to ask, what's new in the life?
You know, man, trying to crack this nut, man. You know, this Hollywood game, this entrepreneurship game, and just trying to get life right. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, this a cold game, man. So I'm still trying to figure this out and make some other moves and do some things outside of the industry too, and just be one of them dudes, man. You know?
Yeah. Well, before we dive into it, right? I just want to, for my fans who may not be familiar with you, take them on down.
They?
Legend, you hear me? Legend, you hear me? Legend. You know what I'm saying? But where are you originally from?
You know, technically I'm from Chicago. I was born in Chicago, but I left the Chi right after I was born. So my whole upbringing was New York. So, you know, that's why, you know, from, you know, the lingo to the movement to the energy, I'm an East Coast dude, man. I'm a New Yorker, man. You know, home is where you lay your hat.
Right.
You know, technically, well, you know, anybody that's ever seen anything or think they know anything about Michael Jordan would tell you he's from
Chicago.
No, that's where he played, but where's he originally from? You know?
No.
How old are you, man?
I'm 28.
Oh, you just showed it. People will tell you Michael Jordan is from North Carolina.
Right.
But technically he's from New York. He was born in New York.
Right.
But, you know, he claims, anytime he'll even tell you, I'm just a country boy from North Carolina. Right. So he claims North Carolina, but technically Jordan's from New York. Tupac is from New York, but would claim West Coast.
Right.
You know, so home is where you lay your hat. So technically I'm from Chicago, but New York was my stomping grounds.
Right. How was it growing up in New York?
I loved it, man. You know, I was born in 75 and I'm an 80s baby. So, you know, like I said, I moved to New York shortly after birth. So my whole upbringing up until about, I was, you know, 17, 18 when I moved to Cali, you know, was New York and New Jersey. You know, I spent most of my life in New York, but then, you know, I'm saying that like I'm old, but the later parts of my young life in New Jersey. But New York was a trip, man, because, you know, it was a different place back then.
Right.
You know, Times Square wasn't what it is now, which is Disneyland. Right. You know, you had the peep houses, you know, right there near Port Authority. You know, you had all the peep houses, the nudie shows, the strip joints. I mean, you could literally get your dick sucked in one of them spots. Right. You know, it was dangerous. Times Square was dangerous. All the porno movie theaters where they would have the TVs outside the theater showing you a preview of the porno, not the dirty shit. They danced around the dirty shit, but you got the gist of it.
Right.
You know, and you know, motherfuckers get mugged and robbed and fucked up in that area. But now it's Disneyland, man. But it seemed like something was so much more pure and fun back then during those times.
Right. And at what point did you leave New York and get into comedy?
Well, I left. I got to Jersey by elementary school.
Right.
So elementary and spent my elementary school years and my middle school years in Jersey. But then I dropped out of high school after 9th grade when I got my GED. And then that's when by that time I had did Def Jam when I was 16, Showtime at the Apollo when I was 17. And by the time I got 18, I bounced out to Cali and had been in Cali since from then till today.
Legend.
Okay.
Legend. The catalog speaks. You
Man,
hear me? Sometimes
listen.
the catalog is what they got.
Well, you know, listen, I think the most respectable part about that is the longevity. You know, in a business where, you know, and this was pre-internet, social media, everything on your phone,
Right.
you know, YouTube, where, you know, you had to make your bones within the industry, and the industry was the only platform you had to try to make a name for yourself. I mean, now with social media and TikTok and Instagram and all that other shit, you know, a lot of people can get that 15 minutes of fame, but at the end of the day, it's still about the longevity. So even if you blow up on a TikTok or a Instagram, I mean, that's cool, but if you really want to sustain it, you gotta have what it takes.
Yeah. Let's get into it. You mentioned the streets of New York, being able to watch those commercials, and I couldn't help but think of Adam 22. Are you familiar with Adam 22?
Yeah, I did his show, No Jumper.
Yeah, he does No Jumper.
Yeah.
Well, his wife is a.
Yeah,
You know what
I know
Leading
the story.
plug.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I actually interviewed a few stars myself. I met Misty Stone.
What it do, baby? This is your lovely Misty Stone, and you are tuning in to RealToonTV.
Mr. Marcus.
It was something about her that, I don't know, we just clicked.
You know what I'm saying? We got
I hosted the AVNs twice. Yeah.
Legend!
Yeah.
It just keeps going.
Yeah.
It keeps
Yeah.
going.
But the crazy thing is, I'm not a porn guy. You know, I know most dudes is porn dudes, but I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't fuck more porn stars than I actually seen their videos. You know what I mean?
Must be nice.
Yeah, it's a good problem to have as long as you don't have a real problem like an STD.
Yeah, well, most of them get like tested frequently though.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah,
They do.
yeah.
So in theory, sometimes being with them is safer than being with a regular chick.
That's what I'm saying.
Right.
Well, you know, Adam, his wife actually got plugged by, or he paid. I guess he paid
somebody?
for Jason Love.
Yeah.
Yeah. He paid Jason Love like $10,000.
That's some goofy white shit. Ain't doing that. White people just move different, man. You know, you let them fuck your broad, man. And I mean, you know, I think he purposely went after a with some major wood. You know what I mean? I mean, from what I hear, this nigga's dick is as big as a kayak.
Yeah, she was on Blacked.
Yeah. That man, good white folks, man. They get down different, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
And then bought the Lamborghini.
right.
Right.
Yeah, and congratulated her. I think watched it together, and for me, I guess it was the comments after,
Right.
where he was like, she hadn't been stretched out in a while, and you know what I'm saying, and he was screaming ouch, or she was screaming ouch every time he tried to sleep with her after the fact, like,
Right.
you know what I'm saying? As somebody who's hosted the AVNs, though, you have to have somewhat of a different, you know, outlook, because I guess that's what goes on in the.
Listen, man, if the money right, you know, like you know, if the money right, I'm doing a job, man. You know, and here's what's crazy. The AVNs is not really what I think most people assume it is. Well, let me correct that. If you're the host or if you're in the industry and you're in that circle, you know, I guess, you know, yeah, it's a good time. You know, the parties are wild in Vegas. Right. You know, I remember I went to one party and they actually had a hotel room in the Hard Rock that the room had a bowling alley in it. I ain't never seen a hotel room with a bowling alley. And, you know, everybody was in there, girls all shirtless, and two girls was in the middle of the floor with a crowd around them, and one was shooting a ping pong ball out of pussy into the other girl pussy. So, yeah, if you in the inner circle, it's a wild time. But if you just one of the fans, like a lot of them dudes who be at the event, standing in line for hours to get in, to pay the money to get in to see the girls in their booths and get their picture taken and get autographs and shit like that. for the average fan, you don't have access to what I had access to.
To that, right.
To that shit. So for them, I can't see how that would be enjoyable. You know, just to stand in line for hours, pay money, take a picture with your favorite porn star, and that's all you get out of it. Like, fuck that. You know what I mean? But I don't think it's all cracked up what you think it is. Right. You know what I mean? I think that a lot of them dudes, the average Joes, be thinking, oh my God, I'm going to the AVNs, and it's just going to be a wild time. For the people that are in that circle, yes. For you, nah.
Yeah. You couldn't see yourself even like, you know, my thing is the back end. You know what I'm saying? So, like with Adam, as far as him paying the 10, if he made 20, would it not be worth it?
If he paid, you said 10 to make 20?
Yeah, if he paid Jason Love 10.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
For him to get back,
wife.
right, and he gets 20?
Yeah.
Listen, man, ain't enough zeros on that equation for me. Yeah. You know, if we're going to play that game, I need life-changing money.
Right.
You know what I mean? You talking about hundreds of millions,
right.
You know, and even then, I'm still apprehensive because, you know, if that's your broad and you love her, fuck you doing, man? Ain't supposed to be a price on that.
Right. They got a child together, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, okay, even more so. I mean, but again, you know, white folks, they just move different.
Right.
You know?
Right. For sure. So you mentioned the industry. I watched the old Dave Chappelle interview where he talked about how to crack a certain level, they wanted him to put on a dress.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Have you ever experienced anything like that?
Yes. Listen, I know in the black community, particularly with black men, that's always been a stigma and a no-go. Black men in dresses. And I've said this on many interviews. I don't see it that way. First of all, men in drag comedically is one of the oldest staples in comedy. That's been done since comedy's inception. And as far as this idea that it is somehow demeaning and degrading to black men, I would agree with that if there wasn't balance. And when you think about the scales of that, and by balance, I mean, you know, we've had enough positive images of black men in film and on television, whether it was obviously pre-scandal, Bill Cosby as an incredible father, James Evans as a providing father. You know, you got actors like Denzel, Wesley Snipes, Larry Fishburne, Morgan Freeman, Sam Jackson, Ving Rhames, and I could go on and on and on, Don Cheadle, where they have played everything from politicians to cops to lawyers to doctors to loving fathers to civil rights leaders. So when you look at the scales of balance, there's been more positive images of us than negative images of us. And unless you have that balance, and to be honest, that, as far as that goes, that tips the scale more than the black men in dresses. So if this really were, on one side you have black men in dresses, which is supposed to be demeaning and degrading in terms of black male imagery and role model type shit, and then you had on the other side of the scale, everything I just said, it's not even close. We've had more positive images of us from prominent black men in the industry than we had of us in dresses. So again, you have balance, but again, those scales tip more in favor of the positive than the negative. So because of that alone, I've never seen it the way most black men see that. I think for me, that's a little overblown. And then the second thing is this. You know, you think about all the black men we've seen in dresses. Eddie Murphy is the Clumps, Mama and Grandmother Clump, Rasputin and Norbit. Martin Lawrence is Mama Payne, Shanae, Big Mama. The Wayans brothers in White Chicks. Richard Pryor in The Toy. Kevin Hart. Jamie Foxx is Wanda. You know, Tyler Perry, who's built an entire empire off that character. His own studio employs a lot of black people. You know what I'm saying? Allows a lot of black people to eat off that. So you mean to tell me that all those black men that I just named, you've lost respect for? We as a community don't respect them? When those guys come to your city to perform, you're not going to go see Martin. You're not paying to go see the Wayans. You're not paying to go see Eddie Murphy if he ever decides to return to stand up. You're not paying to see Jamie Foxx. Come on, man, who we lying? I don't think any respect for those men has diminished by any means. And I don't think if any of those men came to your city to do a live concert because of them in dresses in those roles that made you laugh, you're not gonna go see them now? So I don't know that I buy into that. That whole mystique about black men in dresses, I don't buy into that.
Well, my thing is, do you have to do it to reach that next level though?
You don't have to do anything you don't want to do. I don't think that them doing that was based on we have to. I think they saw what was funny comedically, and they did, like I said, what's always been an old staple in comedy.
Yeah, as I was researching, I've seen an interview with Kevin Hart, right, where he says that's like one of his boundaries not to do that.
And he did it.
Right. And a year later, he goes on SNL, and right after he did it, he blew up.
Well, no, he blew up before that. You don't get on SNL unless you already blown up.
But he blew up after that.
He was already bona fide.
But it was like he was able to sustain, like, I've watched.
I can't buy that at all. Listen, Kevin Hart, regardless as to what you feel or whether or not you like his comedy, and it's all subjective. And I've gone online and I've read a lot of times where people go, he ain't funny, he ain't this, he ain't. The numbers don't lie. The nigga sells out arenas. His box office receipts are undeniable. So again, scales of balance. Of course, everybody ain't gonna like you. I don't care how good you are. No, everybody didn't love Muhammad Ali. Everybody don't love Michael Jordan. But the numbers don't lie. And in the scales of balance, Kevin Hart is more successful than he's not. Right. He sells out arenas. His box office receipts don't lie. So I don't think that him doing that swung the pendulum a certain way within his career. Like he got bigger. He was already big, and he continues to stay big.
Right. Well, I'll say this: Katt Williams, another comic dude,
Right. And for the record, I know a lot of black people's go-to is, well, that's why Dave Chappelle is so respected, because he ain't never put on a dress. Yes, he did in Robin Hood Men in Tights. Dave wore a dress too.
Bars. So Katt Williams, he made a comment, and in his comment he actually referenced Dave Chappelle. He says people like me and Dave won't be as big as Kevin because they don't go against the Illuminati. And not going against the Illuminati has caused them to take punches and whatnot. You mentioned the industry.
I'm here in Houston. I just heard about a week or so ago, Dave Chappelle just sold out 40,000 seats here in Houston, where the Rockets play. So miss me with that shit. Katt, and I'm not here to bang on Katt, but I think you'd have to be living under a rock or be the dumbest motherfucker in the world if you couldn't tell that Katt has had substance abuse problems. So stop the bullshit. As you young people say, stop the cap. Katt Williams is where Katt Williams is because of choices Katt Williams has made. Now, if that's fine with him in terms of where he's at and how he wants to maneuver, that's his business. And he's successful. He's rich. Katt don't have to do what Katt don't want to do. So he don't have to, but his decisions are his decisions. And if he's happy with that, he's the one living in his own skin, you got to respect that. But I don't confuse Katt with Dave by any means. I don't associate them two by any means. And yes, Dave moves to the beat of his own drum as well. And that's a pretty powerful position that you can put yourself in, if you can put yourself in it. To be able to go, you know what? I don't have to do this, or I don't want to do this. I move how I want to move. Of course, I'm not motivated by money. I'm inspired by it, but I'm not motivated by it. Like that's not the, I'm driven. I'm not driven by it to like, that's something that I have to have. So I'm gonna be desperate and do whatever comes along for the sake of money. But yeah, man, Dave's a beast. The reason why he walked away from the 50 million, a lot of people wouldn't have done that. But if he was comfortable enough to do that for whatever his reasons were, you got to respect that. But the most gangster shit is he walked away from 50 to get 60. So that to me is the most gangster shit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's hard. That's hard. He walked away from 50 and came back, got 60.
I mean, that to me is nigga hat tip.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Overstood. I like TK Kirkland, he's another comedian out here, out here like as in visiting. He's now mentoring Charleston White. Are you familiar with Charleston White?
Yeah.
So Charleston White's from Texas. He's from out here. You know what I'm saying? From Fort Worth, via Fort Worth. I actually did a documentary. He's one of the stars of the documentary early on, before everything that we see today. You know, he actually had dreadlocks.
Only who could really gangbang was the dope fiend babies. Mom then was on crack.
What do you think about his form of comedy?
Charleston White?
Charleston White.
Well, I don't know him officially to be a comedian. I know he says outlandish shit, whether it's for shock value or the intent to be funny. I guess that's the part that's up for debate. But I've never seen him do stand-up. I've never known him to do stand-up. And just based off of some of the things that I've seen, I mean, it wouldn't be my cup of tea, I don't think, you know? And I know that somebody said that he complimented me or was complimentary towards me in an interview. So I guess thanks for that. But listen, man, the clip I saw with Charleston White where he talked about basically advocating it's okay to beat a woman sometimes or rape a woman. I think he said both. I don't know if that was for shock value or that was an attempt to be funny. And as a comedian, as someone who strives to be one of the best comedians in the game, it feels like it would be wrong or hypocritical for me to take a stance on what you can and can't say. But again, thank God comedy is subjective, because I personally don't find the humor in that. Be it that my mother was a victim of domestic abuse by my father. And as a child witnessing that, especially as a boy, where you are rendered defenseless and you can't help your mother and you always want to protect your mother, I don't know that that's funny to me. You know? Charleston White making jokes about, you know, every now and then you got to put your hands on your woman, slap her around, you know, rape a bitch. I don't find the humor in that. You know what I mean? And I'm pretty dark. I can get pretty edgy. And go there.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Even to some people's distaste. And again, I think our attempt as comedians is to always be funny, first and foremost. That's what we do. And sometimes, you know, you miss the mark. Sometimes you fail. Michael Jordan didn't win every game, but he's got 6 rings. Muhammad Ali didn't win every fight, but he's a 3-time world champion. So, you know, even in greatness, you miss the mark.
Right.
But for my personal taste, that's not for me.
Right. Overstood. Well, speaking of mentoring people,
right.
I watched. I was watching a back and forth between Fazon Love and Country Wayne. He essentially made the comment that Country Wayne wasn't getting the type of money that he's alleging that he's getting, or it's like millions of dollars from social media comedy. You mentioned earlier, like, that's a new form of breakthrough.
Yeah.
However, Fazon Love was talking more like residuals. I get residuals from 1992.
Versus Country Wayne, who doesn't?
Assumedly, he doesn't get residuals. That's what he was saying.
Black people, grow the fuck up. We could do more together if we form the Avengers than the shit we like to do. Grow the fuck up, man. You do listen, and again, my attempt is always to be comedic. But one thing I think I'm gonna stop, or at least I'd like to stop trying. I'd like to try to stop doing, right, is bashing my fellow black comedians and my brothers in the game. Now, obviously, you know, the Kanye Wests of the world, when they wild out and do shit that's just crazy and maybe ignorant or bananas, comedically, we have to do our jobs. So there are certain times, certain things that we have to tackle because that's an instinct, that's a muscle for us to comedically flex when something screams, fuck with it. But you know, I'd like to just pick my battles better. And if it truly doesn't warrant my reaction or a reaction or a comedic reaction, I want to leave it alone.
Well, I bring it up because Desi Banks commented on it, and he essentially said like the OGs to give game instead of just critiquing us.
Yeah, but is it game? Is it really game? It's like that old saying: are you laughing with me, or are you laughing at me? And I think that you can give game, but we got to be careful about describing game is what might be disguised as malicious intent. You know what I'm saying? There's a way to give game, and especially if you're going to do it in an open forum publicly, if it doesn't come off complimentary or genuine or like, there's some real love behind it or there's some real, I'm passing you some information intellectually that you can really benefit from, then what is it really? Right. Because malicious intent, we know the difference, in terms of tone, your message, how you deliver it. Are you really giving me game or you fucking with me?
Right. Well, what would your advice be to an Instagram comedian or Facebook comedian that got some attention, got some fame, to get that longevity?
Respect the craft and be in it for real. What's your goal? I mean, are you really just trying to get 15 minutes of fame and be hot for the moment, or do you care enough about this game that you've done your homework? You know the history. You've seen the documentaries. You read comedy. You study comedy. You watch comedy. Or you just trying to take from it the likes and the reposts and trying to make a quick buck. I mean, obviously, look, if you do it right, you can monetize social media. You can make some bread, and nobody should ever hate on that. But again, I say be motivated by money, not driven by it. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't want to hate on anybody that can figure out how to finesse this social media shit and make $1. Because there's motherfuckers that really eat off this, and I mean eat well. So that's something I'm trying to figure out. Because again, I come from an era where I'm pre all of this, so that's not what I'm geared for. I don't navigate them waters naturally. So I have to really learn this shit and invest in it and take the time to figure it out. So I would say do the same thing, man. If you a young cat coming up and you got social media and everything at your fingertips through your phone and you want to utilize that and monetize that, mazel tov. But if you really want to get in the comedy game and be respected for it and have some longevity, do the homework.
Right. Okay. Let's take it to a kind of a different angle, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just some recent events that happened in the news. So, Kodak Black, not sure if you're familiar.
Now, see, this is one of those moments, but comedically, again, I just said I don't want to bash niggas, but this nigga screams comedy. But go ahead.
Well, he just did a song with 6ix9ine.
Okay.
So the thing about 6ix9ine is, he told on like 16 people, whatever
right.
it was. He took down the organization. And Kodak Black, who was just released from the feds,
right,
via pardon by President Donald Trump, did a song with him. You know what I'm saying? So does that take away his street?
Listen, man, I'm 48 years old. I come from the era where, like I said, I was born in 75. By the 80s, hip hop and rap was born. I was there for its birth. It was born out of the Bronx. I'm from New York. I lived in New York, like I said, from being a toddler to a teenager. I lived through I was the golden era, what they consider the golden era of hip hop, the 90s, early 2000s. I was in my prime. I was in my 20s when that was happening. So I'm saying that to say, 6ix9ine, Kodak, a lot of these young rappers today are garbage to me. So I don't invest in that too much in terms of keeping up with all the knowledge and who's who and who does what. I mean, the most I know is what I see on the phone, But I come from an era when rap was at its best. So this garbage shit now, I don't be heavily invested in that.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you said how old?
28.
Yeah, so this is your time. It's unfortunate for you.
It's what I have to deal with.
It's what it is, baby. This is your time.
I'm really in that age between the, you know what I'm saying, 2000s.
You late 2000s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, you know what I'm saying? Boosie, he commented on the Kodak Black situation and essentially disowned him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Said that he didn't have any morals for working with the getting cheese from a rat. You know what I'm saying? At what point do you feel like, you know what I'm saying, somebody that's getting money, should they leave the streets alone?
Immediately. You know, I'm not saying forget where you come from, and I'm not saying don't keep your roots tied to the community, because the community is what helps raise you. It can also break you, destroy you, and kill you if you're not careful. But no one should aspire to stay in the ghetto. Nobody should aspire to stay ignorant. Nobody should aspire to live in an area where you have to leave your door and have a target on your back, especially from your own people. Right. And when you come into success and money and things that will make other people envious of you, the friends will kill you quicker than your strangers will. Right. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm not saying you can't learn anything from the streets. I think that, you know, you learn how to survive in certain aspects from a street mentality that you should apply in real life or outside the streets, because I think that's a helpful tool in trying to survive in the world. But you have to grow, you know? Right. Jay-Z ain't talking about at 50-something what he was talking about at 20-something. Right. It would seem silly to do that. He said, I'm not a businessman, I'm a businessman. He's a business, he's a brand. And you know, at 50-something years old, you look kind of silly, and it's kind of unrealistic for you to still be talking about guns and drugs when you flying on your own private plane, hanging out in Milan or the Middle East with the, you know, Saudi prince. You know what I'm saying? You in a different zip code now. Act accordingly.
Right. I understand. Speaking of Boosie, he was also recently in the news for repoing his daughter's car. So when she turned 16, he bought her a Mercedes-Benz, whatever it was, all black with the pink trim. It played a 16-year-old car. Yeah. He took it after she left his mansion in Atlanta to go to Baton Rouge to stay or help her mom or whatever it was, after he hadn't gotten arrested for the gun charge. And they put child support on Boosie. So essentially, he took the whip because according to what he said, is that's what comes with the child support. I get you a car, you know what I'm saying, you live good, you here with me. When you put me on child support, you lose that. Is that fair?
Is it fair to her, the daughter?
To the daughter.
No, I don't think it's fair to her. I mean, what does she have to do with the child support? Is he not paying it?
Well, so he wasn't on child support prior to this. So let's just say that, right? He just got a gun charge. He's looking at some time, and around this time, you leave, and I get put on child support. What Boosie said
who put him on child support?
The mother put him on child. But what Boosie said was they conspired against him to put him on child support.
Well, I mean, as fucked up as that is, you know, why take the car though? You know what I mean? Why take the car? This is petty. You know what I'm saying? You gave her the car, let her keep the car, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's how do you feel about child support?
Oh, it's legalized sodomy to an extent. You know, I'm not saying that. Listen, if you father the child, you know, handle your business. You know, it's your responsibility to take care of that seed. But the part that's criminal is how much the courts are getting you for, which we all know is beyond ridiculous and oftentimes unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? Like, what it really costs for a child's survival is not at these astronomical figures that the courts take you for. You know, it's really, and we all know it's really about the mother maintaining her lifestyle in terms of what she wants and what she's used to. What does her lifestyle have to do with the child? If it's really about the child, then, you know, the amount of money should be appropriate to the child. But all this outlandish shit where it's like, you know, some of these celebrities, $500,000 a month. Come on, man. That's ridiculous.
I think Kanye is like 400,000.
Yeah. And the crazy part is Kim is rich. So why is he being shafted for 400,000?
Right.
You know, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, I saw Tyrese pays like 10,000, and he called for Dr. Martin Luther King III to come and, you know what I'm saying, march at his. No one showed up. You know what I'm saying, but
right.
I guess I'm indifferent because as a black man, it's just like, damn, you know, a nigga like Boosie actually takes care of his kids. You know, you bought her a car. The car is 16,000 itself. You know what I'm saying? It's a new Mercedes, probably 28,000. You know what I mean?
Yeah, listen, there's a lot of black men that take care of their kids. But, you know, sometimes we all know that child support is a means for a lot of women just to be vindictive. You know what I'm saying? And spiteful and hateful. So I think the whole system needs to be, revamped.
So I was at your show, and you had a set where you talked about the gays. I'm gonna say that the alphabet community. Mm-hmm. And you went kind of hard. You know what I mean? There was people in the crowd who was of that person. Well, you went out everybody. Let me start with that as far as some context. You went out everybody. Yeah. Nobody made it. You know what I'm saying? Blacks didn't make it. Whites didn't make it. Arabs didn't make it. Indians didn't make it. Yeah. And somehow or another, you end up catching the two lesbian couple, right?
Yes.
My question for you, we see what's going on with Dwayne Wade. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if you.
Yeah.
But his son, you know, wants to be his daughter, and he's fully supportive. Yeah, Gabrielle Union supportive. I think he's still he's under 18,
right?
And he's transitioning, taking the meds now. What's your thoughts on that?
You know, everybody should be happy in their own skin, man. You know, or whatever it takes to make you happy. Life is hard, man. So I can imagine you not being comfortable within the skin that you're in has got to be a hell of a conundrum. So everybody, listen, everybody should be happy. Everybody has the right to be happy. Everybody should be able to do what makes them happy. And like I say in my bit, man, as long as you're not physically hurting anybody or denying anybody their inalienable rights, you also, meaning people that are not gay or transgender, we should have the right to feel how we feel. Everybody should have the right to their feelings. As long as your feelings or my feelings don't infringe upon your rights or your physical well-being, people feel how they feel. And you know, listen, that's Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union's, you know, situation as parents to have to deal with that. And however they choose to deal with it, that's their business. But yeah, I just think that, you know, everybody should be allowed to their feelings. And just because I don't necessarily agree with whatever the choices are that you make, doesn't make me a bad person. Because there are certain things in life that maybe from whatever your position is, whether it's spiritual, religious, or just your own personal convictions, you should be okay to stand on that. You know, again, I just because I don't agree with it doesn't make me a bad person. Doesn't make you a bad person. But that's my stance. You know, and those are my beliefs. And we should be allowed to believe what we believe and feel how we feel. That's the whole beauty of this country, isn't it? Free speech, democracy, you know, being able to voice how you feel. And in a forum like comedy, where that stage is your platform to be able to say what you want to say in terms of free speech, it is what it is. It's an American right. That's the beauty of America, right?
Man, it is, but for you, is that not scary, man? I watched you I just watched you go in. There was you were going in on fat people at one point.
Yeah.
And there was a big girl. She was like right there in the stage. Like she was just right there. I remember, and I'm at this point I'm studying the room. You know, I'm looking to see how people are reacting because I'm laughing. Everybody around is laughing. But now you talking about, you know, you get people individually. You know what I'm saying? So it's like some people laughing at. And then I see you talk about the big people, and you even made a comment like, man, you probably sitting next to somebody and don't want to laugh because they big ass right there. You know, McDonald's.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Shout out to the McDonald's shirt. You know what I'm saying? I see it. But you know, like how do you stand on that? I watched you go through the Lizzo shit, and you still standing on, you know, business.
Yeah, I mean, you know, listen, man, we in Houston, but, you know, I always say this whenever I'm performing in Florida, you know, and people kind of allude to that same thing. Like, man, how do you comfortable with, like, man, I'm in Florida, man, I stand my ground, you know? Right. So it's like, you know, I
stand your ground out here.
Yeah,
too.
I mean, listen, no matter where I am, I'm going to stand my ground. Comedy is my ground. You know, that stage is my dojo. Yeah. You know, that's my restaurant. Yeah, I'm not going to let you come in and tell me what to take or put on my menu. The menu is the menu. You either order from the menu, or if you don't like what's on the menu, get the fuck out. You know what I mean? I'm not going to change my game because you dissatisfied, you know? If you were a responsible consumer of comedy, you've done your homework. You know who you coming to see. So therefore you know what to expect. You know, you're an idiot if you go see somebody and you've done no research. So that would you gonna go there and get mad because, you know, you don't know you're not familiar with who you saying and they say something you don't like. And at the end of the day, I don't even think it should have to be brought to that, because at the end of the day, it's comedy, you know, and there's no rules in comedy. Just be funny. That's the only rule. So the mere fact that you go into a live comedy show, you should already be prepared to go, I'm prepared for anything. Even though I don't know what it's gonna be. I'm prepared for anything, you know? That's like going to a strip club and going, man, what's up with all these titties? You a strip club. That's what it's about. Titties and ass, right. You know, naked bodies. So, you know, yeah, I do what I do, man. You know, my cocaine is uncut. My comedy cocaine is uncut. Ain't been stepped on, mixed, or nothing. Right. You know?
How do you feel about other comics when they weigh in on your Lizzo situation to where it's like he's picking on her?
I know who you're talking about specifically. Hand in your badge, nigga. You know, this is a fraternity, man. You know, comedy is a fraternity. It's like any other, you know, form of entertainment. Like you look at sports, people that play basketball, baseball, football. That community is a fraternity. It's a brotherhood. Right. You know, and for you to be a comedian denouncing another comedian for doing comedy, hand in your badge, man. You know, shame on you.
Yeah. Do y'all not have any comedy big homies to police those type of situations, or is it just?
You know, the fact that there's beef in anything and everything. You know, it's like I'm just like the fact that there's beef in comedy is insane to me. And let's be honest, I feel like this happens more with black comics than any other kind of comics. Right. Black people, I just think we've been born and bred to some degree. It's been ingrained in us to have crabs in a barrel mentality, you know. And I don't want to get too deep off into it, but you know, I think, you know, some of that comes from slavery, you know, from our very beginning. You know, field Negroes versus house Negroes, light-skinned niggas versus dark-skinned niggas. You know, good hair versus bad hair or nappy hair. You know what I'm saying? Like that's always been ingrained in us from slavery for us to pit each other, for us to be pitted against one another. And I think that's traditionally just something that's been carried over from that time all the way till today.
Right. Yeah.
We haven't broken that cycle.
Right. The Willie Lynch syndrome is what I like to call it.
Okay, I'll take that. Yeah.
What's the fine line between that, right? Because it's like, okay, I may have a point, and then I may be hating. You know what I'm saying?
Well, that's why I was saying earlier. You know, it's like I don't want to not do my job, and with comedy, when you look at something on the news or you hear a certain story that's just so outlandish and wild and over the top, it's an instinct. Like, without thinking, your comedic muscle starts to flex. Like, oh my God, we see the comedy in that situation was something that's begging to be addressed. But towing that line between, all right, is what I'm doing, is what I'm saying coming off comedic, or is this borderline hating? Is this borderline, you know what I'm saying, me dissecting something and with malicious intent? So it's just trying to figure that out as you toe that line is where the challenge is.
So let me ask you this, and this will be the last question. What's an example? Give me an example, literal example of what would be something outlandish that Aries Spears sees and, oh yeah, this me.
Like comedically?
Comedically.
Anything Kanye West does. You know what I'm saying? Kanye be doing some wild shit. So yeah, anything Kanye West does or anything anybody does that is just, again, deemed outlandish, you know what I'm saying? Or just so ignorant that it's like, you know, come on, man.
Like what exactly? Like, you know.
Well, like, you know, listen, when OJ created history by killing 2 white folks and being acquitted, when I think most black people, if we're being honest, we know that nigga did that shit in all likelihood.
Right.
But, you know, whether it's him coming up with a book saying, if I had decided to kill him, this is what I would have done. As a black man in America, why would you do that? You know, let's be honest, when he got busted for trying to steal his own shit, and they gave him the time they gave him, did the punishment fit the crime? No.
Right.
But that was, you know, that's white folks going, we got you, nigga. You beat us the first time. So now you done fucked up, and so now we gonna give you 20 years for theft. Come on, man. We know that didn't warrant 20 years, but that's white folks going, nigga, we didn't get you the first time, but we gonna get you this time. Cause you know, this is America, man. And in this country's history, white folks ain't that forgiving. Black people, we're very forgiving. You know, Dylan Roof went into a church and killed 9 black folks. And during his arraignment, you know, when the families got to address him, so many of us, as we always do, we forgive you. We forgive you. Black people are some of the most forgiving and loyal motherfuckers on the planet. White folks ain't as so forgiving. Right. You know what I mean? So, you know, as a black man, if to beat the system, you killed 2 white folks and beat the system, nigga, why would you go and put yourself in a position for you to get in trouble, knowing they looking at you, knowing they want revenge, knowing they're seething about the fact that you got away with it, you arrogant nigga. Why would you do that? Now, for him to do something that stupid, comedically, that has to be addressed. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
That part work for shit show, man. Aries Spears, Doc. I appreciate you coming on the platform. You know
all love, dog.
Being a man of your word. You know what I'm saying? I
Yes.
think that was the biggest thing. You know, I was, you know.
You was concerned?
I was very concerned. I was very concerned. You hear me?
Listen, man. Well, first of all, I wasn't gonna just take your money, nigga. That would have been the most foul shit ever. You paid me half up front, like you said you would. So you were a man of your word. So that means I have to do likewise. But sometimes, man, I get so caught up in, you know, going back and forth with cats, you know, trying to commit to certain things on Instagram and certain people that, you know, when you're taking on so much at once, everything all of a sudden starts to become a blur. So sometimes I just might be a little forgetful. You have to remind me, but it's never intentional. Because like I said, you were a man of your word. You gave me half the bread. Once you did that, I said, nigga, we on. Yeah. But you had to remind me when you saw me at my show, because I was like, yeah, I was like, wait a minute, wait, we said what? We was gonna do what? And once it clicked, I was like, you right. So, you know, yeah, man.
No, shit show. Is there anything else going on that you like to address?
No, not really. Just make sure y'all support my podcast. It's called Spears and Steinberg.
Shout out Steinberg.
Yeah, available on all streaming platforms. Go to my YouTube channel, Spearsberg Pod. Please subscribe there. And yeah, man, jump on board, man. It's a hell of a ride.
Shit show. All right.
real tone, it's some real money in the room.